What they had done in the movies before was obviously extremely informative and useful and fun, but at that point, Thor and Cap weren't even close to being finished, and there's also the element of, okay, you have all these parts, but how can you possibly bring them together? They don't seem to coexist, and ultimately that is what made me go, oh, this can be done and this should be done. These people don't belong together. These people wouldn't get along, and as soon as that really sort of came into focus, I realized, oh, then I actually have something to say about these people. Marvel had a very clear idea of the kind of spectacle that they wanted and sort of their structure, act-wise. This conflict here, this here, and which was great for me because then I had something to build off of. And the only thing I was interested in building was, well, how do we get there? How does that matter, and how does that action tell us something about the characters we didn't know? So it's not just a checklist, which is very important to me because you don't want to come off of this feeling like a ride. You want to come off of this, and there'll be some riding, God knows, but you want to come off of it feeling like, you got told a story. And so the only thing I really had to worry about was motivating it, was making it matter to these people and making these people matter to the audience. Obviously, Black Widow is a fun character and was played by Scarlett Johansson, 2 points in her favor. She's also a woman. And I was very clear from the start, you cannot have an all-male team. You just can't do it. It's not acceptable. The thing about Sam is I always think that there are two of him. He's famous for the sort of bravura, Pulp Fiction, speechifying. This is a guy who can, out-moxie anybody in the room. But of course, as a huge Unbreakable fan, I'm also very much in love with the great well of sadness that he brings, and I told him from the very beginning, and my biggest note throughout the film was less shaft, more glass. Because what I wanted to see was a guy who, yeah, could absolutely command a room with his voice, could absolutely be the guy you would never question was in charge of this enormous organization and everything around it, could be a guy who would do stuff that was morally compromised, yet absolutely necessary, but at the same time would feel the burden of that. To be the leader means to separate yourself from everybody else. Mark was my first wish. Like I made a list, a very short list, and Mark was at the head of it. He was the guy I wanted, and Marvel. And I said, look, I think we want a completely fresh take on this, and I think I know the guy for it. And they're like, well, we're not sure unless it's Mark Ruffalo. We don't even know if. And I was like, what? I just froze. I was like, you got to be kidding. You did not just say that. And then I showed them my list that I had in my wallet, a little piece of paper. And they were completely on board with that. And I think they'd been interested in him before. And, he, as somebody else that so after Robert, he's probably the person I spent the most time with before shooting, which is Annie. And, just talking about anger and how it manifests and different kinds, and so that we could get the Hulk away from being this roaring creature. Jeremy and I, before he even took the role, we talked about who this guy was, what it meant to be a dead shot, that he was a sniper, that he was the kind of guy who sneaks off by himself, that he's not a team player, that he's always going to find the highest and darkest part of the room, and he's gonna hang out there. That vision of him as just a guy, a real agent, as opposed to a hero, was very useful, and also his relationship with Widow was enormously useful. At the end of the day, I think the thing that makes it work is Tom, because he breathes a lot of life into Loki. He doesn't just twirl his mustache, although God knows he gets to be more of the classic Loki than he got to in Thor. In Thor, he had a very poignant and I thought beautifully realized arc. In this, he's past that. You can still see hints of it. You can still see that the resentments and the vulnerability and the big brother issues and all that stuff. But he's also gone, to a happier place. And Tom can really bring that presence, the texture, so that you go, yeah, this guy is going to he's going to destroy you either from right in front or from the back, and you don't know which.